Hello everyone, George here, Catholic Positive Energy. Happy Wednesday. I'm so glad I was able to come to you during the day today. Things have eased up a little bit, so I can come to you at the normal time. This is when I normally want to broadcast on Wednesday mornings before I go to work, so glad to be here. Now today's broadcast is called Anger is a Poison. Now, you probably heard me talk about this in different ways in the past, but I want to focus solely on this today. Anger is a poison. Now, throughout my life, and you've heard me say this before, throughout my life, I have been surrounded by anger. I have. It's always been a very big part of my life, unfortunately. I've seen people who are angry. I grew up around people who are angry, and during the time I was growing up and I was going to school, I would always see people just being very angry and terrible to each other all the time. So I wish when I was younger I had, some positive, pleasant influences in my life. When I was a kid, I didn't have too many of those. So that's why people often stress that kids need good role models. That's true. They do. And so do adults. So do adults. Just because you turn 18 and you start working and you're on your own doesn't mean you don't need a role model anymore. Everybody needs a role model. If you look at Jesus as your role model, that's great. If you look at someone like the late, great Mr. Rogers, not a bad choice. Someone like me, well, I would hope so. But, I haven't been around that long and I'm not as well known as those two, so hopefully one day I will be well known. But I'm trying to set an example here. So, one thing you need to know and understand about anger is, now it's okay to be angry at times, but don't always let that be all the time, and don't let that be the thing that drives your attitude every day. Because if you're angry all the time, even if you're not yelling, even if you're not speaking, people can see it on your body language. I mean, I once learned in an interpersonal communication class years ago that about 90% of your communication is all nonverbal cues, body language. So, let's say you're having a really bad day and you're not happy and you don't talk to anybody, but you're in a public place and people are walking past you. Now, if you have a look on your face like this, if you look like that and people see you, especially if the people don't know you, they're going to avoid you. Now, if people see you like that frequently, they won't want to be your friend. So, it's okay to be unhappy once in a while, but if you're always angry, if you're always filled with rage, if you're always out of control, then people will notice. And I know a lot of you watching may think, well, if I'm quiet and I do a really good job of hiding it and I don't have an unhappy look on my face, I'm not yelling, and I don't talk about what's going on in my life, how is anybody going to notice? They can't read my mind. Although that's true, they cannot read your mind. People can notice. Now, there's no guarantee they will notice, but they can. Now, me, well, I'm very good at hiding things about myself. I've talked about this story before. I'll never forget this one time when I was a teenager. I was at a karate tournament, which was kind of fun, by the way. I won 2 first-place trophies, but there was this beautiful girl who I was in love with who was not talking to me, and I noticed. And I knew that wasn't happening by accident. It was not a misunderstanding. I knew that there was something going on. So I was very, very unhappy. I remember I sat at a table just by myself for a very long time watching everybody else, and I didn't talk. I just had a really sad look on my face, and I know there were a lot of people walking past me, and a lot of them didn't even know that something was bothering me. They did not know. I didn't tell them. I didn't want everybody to know. I only talked to maybe one or two people, but there were a lot of people who did not know that I was torn up inside, and I didn't want them to. Now, a lot of you may think, like I say, as long as you try to keep it hidden, you think no one will notice. It depends on how you do it, but if people see that you have some very negative thoughts, like I say, people nowadays are very observant, especially people who regularly socialize with others. So if you think nobody will notice that you're angry, they will. They won't normally tell you, but they will notice. So, if you don't want to be that angry person or that unhappy, unpleasant person, and like I said, I found this out the hard way, because for a long time I was that person, unfortunately. Turned things around now. Praise God. You need to, like I've said in the past, you need to make peace with yourself. You need to work on yourself, whatever that may mean. And I'm not going to go into specifics, like I said, whether it means talking to a professional, which is not a bad idea, or having a wonderful group of friends who can be there for you, who love you unconditionally. You have to be someone who doesn't let their problems overwhelm them or tear them apart. You have to be the person who is happy pretty much all the time, or at the very least pleasant, calm, relaxed, content. But you can't be angry. At one of my jobs, I'm an armed security guard. Now, I normally have to kick homeless people out of a shopping center all day, and there are times that some of these people, or even not even the homeless, just angry customers, they're angry. And I always notice something. This was something I didn't notice when I was younger. I wish I would have realized this then, but I realized it later in life. When people in like a public place, they see someone is very, very angry, they don't want to deal with that person. They want nothing to do with that person. Or they're very, very unhappy, maybe not even angry, same thing. They don't want to deal with that person. And there were a lot of times when I was a kid, because I didn't like going to school, I had all those feelings, and people looked at me weird and wanted nothing to do with me. And I didn't know that people would have that reaction. When you're about 6, 7 years old, you're not going to be aware of all this, and your brain isn't fully developed during that time yet. So when you're a little older, you need to be observant so you learn from these things. So hopefully you know not to do this yourself. But whenever I see people who are really, really angry, really, really miserable, really, really unhappy, I want nothing to do with them. And everybody else feels that way too. Do you want people to do that to you? Like I say, anger is a poison. The people who I know personally, who I see who are successful in life financially, and who have lots of friends, and people who always want to be their friend, who have mostly nice things to say about them, these are the people who are never angry, at least not in public. These are not angry people. These are not unhappy people. These are not miserable people. If you want to be someone who's successful financially, you cannot be angry. You cannot let your anger consume you. I guess I should say anger in moderation, but you cannot be someone who lets your anger get the best of them, because it is a poison. Like I've said, people won't want to be your friend. People might fire you from jobs. People will want nothing to do with you, and they won't have nice things to say about you behind your back. So everybody normally would like to have a good reputation, right? Well, although you can't please everybody, all you can do is present the best possible version of yourself when you're in public, when you're around people. That's what you do to get a good reputation. And what really makes it really good, a good reputation, is if you really mean it. You know, I know somewhere in Matthew's gospel, Jesus says, "Do not do good deeds just so others will see you." And that is a true statement. Don't do something good just so people will see that you did it, because normally people can tell. Because if you brag a lot about the good things you're doing, People will notice that, oh, you're just doing that because you want everybody to see you. It's not necessarily because you know it's good and you think it's good. You just want to look good doing this. So, and that's another thing that I didn't learn until later on in life. So when you're going to be happy, when you're going to be calm, when you're not going to be angry, you need to really mean it. Live it, feel it, breathe it, mean it. Don't just be a good person just so other people will see you and say nice things about you. You need to really mean it and be sincere and genuine. Because people will notice whether or not you mean it, whether or not you're the real deal, and whether or not, like people care about what is your purpose for doing these things. Even if you're doing good things, what is your purpose? All these things say a lot about you. What is your purpose for doing this? And if you give them a good answer, the right answer, the one that you really mean sincerely, people will look at you and say, well, I'm proud of you, or I commend you on that. I'm very happy that you're doing that. You are a good person, and I can see that you're trying. I may not know you very well, but yeah, usually that's how it starts. And then if you continue down that path, then it'll just get better and better from there. I want to talk about someone who I know who was not an angry person. This person just recently passed away. It's my favorite priest, the late Monsignor Tom Wallace. I still can't believe that he's gone. But he was never angry. Never. And I knew him pretty well. And every parishioner in our diocese, whoever knew him and met him, knew this about him too. He was not angry, and he was always smiling. He had a smile that was so infectious it would light up the room. And that is something that I'll try to utilize to the best of my abilities. And whenever he did good things for other people, he always had a good reason and purpose. It's because, well, that's my job, that's my duty, or I care. I am at service to the church. I am at service to God's people. These are all good answers that will help your reputation and help you as a person, because these are good principles to live by. I've met a lot of people who can be angry and really unhappy at times, but they always want to do nice things for people, but they want to make sure that other people see them doing it. And when people notice that, you won't have a good reputation, even though you did something good, because your purpose was not good. I just did this good thing because I want people to see me and think I'm a good person. Don't ever let that be the reason. Never. You do it because it's the right thing to do. Whether or not people see you, even if nobody sees you, do it anyway. But if you keep doing these good things and behaving the right way, not out of anger, and remember what I said about what your purpose should be, people will notice. People will eventually notice, because people will be observing you. They'll be around you. They will notice things about you. And when they notice your reasons and purpose, you will have a very good reputation, and people will see nothing but goodness in you. So, like I say, anger is a poison, because it doesn't just make you look like an angry person. It makes you look bad. It does make you, I guess, a bad person in a sense, because your purpose for utilizing the anger, well, I'm filled with rage and I just took it on the next person who interacted with me. Not good. And anger also destroys friendships. It really does. I'll never forget this one time. I was friends with someone at church, and this was someone who helped out a lot. And I guess they were having some kind of personal problems or whatever. I didn't know what was going on. And this person was very, very rude to me, and I never thought they would ever treat me that way. They did this to me and a few other people, and I eventually found out that they were having some big, serious personal problems in their lives that had nothing to do with any of us. But after that happened, See, this person used to have a good reputation. All of us, we eventually looked at that person and we didn't have anything good to say or think or feel about them. This person was already like, one of the rudest people we'd ever met in our lives. Eventually they got in trouble and they were not allowed to help at Mass. And I know to this day, and this was a couple of years ago, to this day there are people who knew that person, who remember this, and they never ever look at them they never have a good image of them. They never look at them in a positive light, and neither do I, because this person did some really, really bad things. They went from being the nicest person in the world to the exact opposite. So, like I say, it was because of that person's anger and rage that destroyed their reputation, destroyed some friendships, and they were not allowed to help out at church because they had a really, really, really bad attitude. If you want to help out with things and have a really good job or career, good reputation, you cannot be an angry person. I hope I've made that clear. And like I said, I'm still learning these things as well. I'll admit I have rough days at my job, my security job, but when it's all said and done, I eventually let it go, and I'm working hard at my hopes and dreams. So, hope I've emphasized why anger is a poison. So, next week, I'll have another broadcast. I don't know yet if I'm going to do a meditation and prayer broadcast or have another topic. I want to hopefully have another topic. I'll try and see what I can do. But hopefully I will have that done for you. So until next week, take care. God bless. Remember, dignification is better than criticism, and live life to the fullest.